Medical professionals of Reddit, when did you have to tell a patient I've seen it all before to comfort them, but really you had never seen something so bad, or of that nature? In dental school, I had an emergency patient come in, complaining of sore gums. Upon examination, I found a massive calculus bridge, Google it for pictures, behind her lower front teeth. She only had about 3 remaining lower teeth, but they were all connected with a whitish brown mineral deposit that was about the size of a golf ball. She had never had her teeth cleaned, and she was probably 55 or so. I basically performed an emergency cleaning. She could speak so much better afterwards. Of course I had to play it off like it was normal, but in my years of practice I still haven't seen a case that bad again. Get your teeth cleaned, people. Even if you can't afford every 6 months, once a year, or every other year is a hell of a lot better than never. This one of those threads you hate yourself for reading but can't stop. I showed up to a house for a possible overdose. 3 firefighters and a police officer were on top of a man who was prone and naked from the waist down. They immediately told my partner and I to restrain the patient to the gurney because the patient was combative. It turns out he took something thinking it was weed, but turned out to be laced with something else, possibly PCP. During his trip he attempted to cut his penis off, but wasn't successful. As fate would have it, I knew the patient personally and tried to comfort him on the way to the hospital. During the ride he became somewhat cognizant and was ashamed of himself. I tried to comfort him as I held his penis in place. I would be lying if I said I had seen a severed penis before. I'm a nurse, and I work in a pediatric. A young woman brought her baby in to be seen for vomiting. I asked her to put the baby on the scale. While on the scale I noticed a strong odor of bug spray, so I asked about it. Mom, a roach crawled into her mouth, so I sprayed a little right in there. She said it matter-of-factly, like it was no big deal. Up calls to the police, CPS and a 1:1 sitter for the child and the mom. When all was said and done the baby was fine and turned over to her grandmother, so no worries there. I have no idea what happened to the mother. I don't believe she was intending to hurt the child. I think she was just butt-ass ignorant. I worked as a mental health tech to get through undergrad. 15F in the adolescent ward claims to have swallowed a staple. But whatever, as I'm taking her down to x-ray I tell her about the dime I swallowed when I was a kid. It happens. Well, turns out she underestimated the number of staples by around 100. Every printout given by the therapists had been a swallowed staple. She had gotten staples from the other kids. The x-ray of her abdomen looked as if it were a weird staple-wise snow globe. And yet, somehow, she was back to trying to steal psych ward staples a week later. Never did figure out how they removed them all. A little late to the party. Not the worst, but I had a patient once with a stomach bleed and a small bowel obstruction. We had to put in an NG tube that goes in your nose and down to your stomach to drain/decompress his stomach, which was pretty distended and hard. I'm inserting the tube, and as soon as it hits this guy's gag reflex he projectile vomits and sprays very dark, half-digested blood all over himself, the bed, the wall, and the floor. It's basically a scene from The Exorcist. I had to dive out of the way and somehow was unscathed. He couldn't stop for almost 10 minutes as we're trying to get this thing down to where it needs to go. Finally finish placement and it immediately suctions out 3 liters of this black sludge that is old, digested blood. Part was mortified, and we had to play it off like, oh no it's fine. It's really common to vomit during the procedure. We'll just go get some towels and clean you up. My coworker and I left the room and just stared at each other in silent shock.
I should fuck her in the Benz.